Hello, my name is Shaun P. Pell. I am a CHCSP and the Vice President of Global Threat Services at Root Shell Security. So we talked about continuous testing in some of my other sort of info snippets, but in this session I'm going to talk about Root Shell's targeted continuous testing. Web applications, change quite regularly, new features, new integrations, new permissions, but most security assurance is still delivered, essentially as a snapshot. That test is only true on the day it's kind of ran, and it is very much quickly out of date. So the question is really, really simple for me. How do you keep levels of security confidence aligned to product change without compromising things like delivery, all right? So this is where targeted continuous testing really does answer that question. Essentially for me, it's a relationship-led security program for a defined application or product. A single web app, if you like. It starts with a deep down technical manual assessment to establish that kind of baseline, and then it evolves very quickly into an ongoing risk-based cadence that follows how the product actually changes over time. So you're not just testing and changing things because the calendar dictates. You are actually testing because the risk has changed or the actual product has changed. Therefore, you're managing that question, if you like, building that security confidence. And this approach is not just a broad, shallow model across everything in your environment. It's more of a depth over breadth sort of approach. And the idea is because the highest impact risk is often concentrated in a small number of business critical products, i.e. your applications, etc. within your organisation. For example, by targeting a simple web application, Root Shell's testing team can learn its business logic, get very familiar with the way it's deployed and the technology stack that it's using, its threat fiends and its usual kind of failure modes. Over time, we really do build that familiarity and it builds that context, where in contrast or in opposition, those one-off engagements never really have the chance to develop. Okay, so let's take a look under the bonnet. Let's see what this really looks like. What does the service really look like? First of all, we talked about this deep down technical, manual pen test. The baseline, if you like, is where we are. And this goes way beyond those kind of surface findings. We actually go into what really matters for these modern, complicated and critical web applications. Things like, full logic testing, authentication, role control, business workflows, etc. That full kind of OWASP methodology. The output isn't just, a report. It's a prioritized risk picture of your application within our platform, including not just misconfigurations, but also talking about contextually what attackers might look to leverage or target, and where your dev teams, if you like, could invest the best time to reduce that risk. The service also creates what I like to call a close working relationship with your devs and stakeholders, and we do this by establishing a working rhythm, I like to call it, with the people in your business that shape the change of the application. This is not designed to be a laborious or heavy process. It's about having short touch points to answer really powerful questions that are being asked. Things like what's coming in the next sprint, what's behind the next feature flag, what integrations are being added, what permissions or user roles are being added or are shifting. The relevant questions to get ahead of these problems. The power here is that context allows testing effort to follow risk and change rather than being locked into, we've got to test next quarter because the calendar tells us to. It really does change that mindset. Okay, so now we're moving to the next stage, which is all about that change-led type of assurance. When meaningful releases land, things like new flows, altered logic, integration, permission changes, for example, we're able to do what we call quick turn assessments focused on the parts that actually matter. And this is how you really do get ahead of the problem, actually start catching issues early before a change becomes a bigger problem, before it kind of reaches clients and customers, and before it turns into late stage surprises, which nobody wants, right? So coupled with that change-led assurance testing, we also implement things like weekly and also monthly automated checks in the background, and the cadence is absolutely decided on the scoping workshops that we would have. Think of these as more of a regression or hygiene control checkpoints. They help catch any reintroduction, if you like, of old bugs or misconfigurations that might have been there, those common misconfigurations, if you like, and it helps with that drift that happens between deeper manual sort of, touch points. The thing to consider here is also that automation doesn't replace the experts. It's just really good at giving you early warning signals and consistent coverage. So now, with all this regular testing and diligence, if you like, you also benefit from the platform-driven reporting, tracking and management, remediation management, which you probably are quite familiar with if you've been watching some of my info sort of snippets that I've been doing over the previous months. For me, a continuous testing program only works if it's measurable and it's provable. So every finding should be recorded and tracked end to end, because everything needs to be in one system to make sense of it, right? To ask questions of the data. And this way you gain more than just a list of vulnerabilities. You actually gain things like governance and insight, which is really, really powerful when you're looking at your critical assets. Things like trending over time, repeat issue patterns, time to fix metrics, remediation management, etc. All these are really, really powerful metrics that you can really drill into in our platform to get those answers. And this really does become your defensible story, if you like. And not only, we just tested it once and here's our results. You are now moving and shifting into this. We continuously manage the risk on our, business critical products and applications. Targeted continuous testing is not for every asset in your business, understandably. It might be overkill for some things, but it's ultimately best for an application or product with real business impact. A true sort of revenue critical app or a customer portal or even a core internal application would be great candidates, especially if they are subject to frequent change or update. Essentially, the root shell targeted continuous testing promise is really, really quite simple. It's about making sure that security keeps pace with product change and ambition and objectives. It's about making sure there are fewer surprises later in development cycles, and it really does help support that shift left approach. It provides clear ownership. Who's responsible for what? Who's responsible for that bit of remediation? And who's actually managing that part of the application? It really does make sense of that prioritising, and that shift, if you like. And it also provides that defensible measurement, if you like, of continuous risk management of the product throughout its life cycle of testing. If your application changes every sprint, if it happens on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, half-yearly basis, then surely your levels of testing assurance should be testing in that sort of frequency too. Thank you.